Now, I know everybody wants me to talk about this page, this final panel of this latest One Piece chapter, and I have to admit, it's quite the major step, even for Oda, the writer of One Piece, one of the best-selling manga series of all time, pretty much #1, shelving that for now. I want to talk about my boy Law and what he did to Luffy in this chapter. It was so good. There were so many good Law moments in this chapter. Like, Luffy, gives the food, and everybody's getting to eat. They're all saying, like, I'm really happy, my grandpa's doing well. My child, he's healthy again. And you just see everybody praising Luffy. They're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then you see Law on the bottom, he's like, oh, great, we have a benevolent pirate and all that. This makes me sick. And I'm just like, Law, of all people that would say such a thing, you're one that shouldn't. Like, you're legit the last person as a pirate that should ever say those words. You want to know why? Because Law, at first glance, he might seem like a brutal, ruthless individual, especially if you meet him at the beginning, when the supernovas were introduced. But after seeing his character with what happened in Punk Hazard to Dressrosa and onward and all that, Law is not a character that is definitely heartless. He is not someone that wants to harm anyone. And when I think about it, Law's never even really, he's never truly, done something that brutal. I mean, yes, he's wanted to get revenge for Doffy, what Doffy did to him, to, the stuff that happened, with Virgo. But overall, when it comes to, his other fights, he never really has done a lot of harm to people. So when you think about it, Law is someone that is a really nice individual. He learned a lot from Corazon. So hearing him say something like that, I'm like, Law, please, my dude. Come on, man. You don't be like that. Don't be trying to be at all tsundere mode. We know for a fact you're a good man. Then, I also like how ominous he was being towards Luffy. It was basically implying that Kinemon was a ghost, and, saying that everybody that they met, all the ninjas and samurai, were pretty much all dead to begin with, and they were just hanging around with Ghost. And I really like that scene. It was kind of like Oda was really self-aware of his audience. Many people in the last chapter, they were speculating that, Kinemon and Momo and all of them could be potentially ghosts. I myself even kind of talked about maybe they're demons or something, ghosts, whatever. But, what happened this chapter, obviously, is something that I don't think many of us really did expect. I mean, I really highly doubt many expected the revelation that we got in this chapter. But the point is, though, is I like how Law was just, beating around the bush. He was trying to be very anonymous, misleading, and Luffy got a little bit upset with that. That was just great. But it turns out it was just diarrhea. That was the whole reason. I'm just like, Kinemon and all of them, they can't stop from eating freaking contaminated food. But somehow Zorro and Luffy, they're completely fine. They're able to move around like it's nothing. It really speaks volumes about how strong Luffy and Zorro's stomach is for them to be able to deal with the contaminated food from Wano. But okay, let's talk about what everybody wants to hear. What everybody wants to hear me talk about. Let's talk about the time travel. At this point in time, this is a very critical step for One Piece. I have faith in Oda. As a writer that has time and time again proven himself, and he still, to this day, stands on top as one of the best mangaka of all time, I have a lot of faith in him as a writer. He has said for many years, since he started One Piece, he's known how he wanted to end his series. He knows how One Piece will end. Yes, he's thrown in more details, he's came up with new ideas, but overall, the end-game goal, where he wants to end the series, has always remained the same. So, I have faith in Oda when it comes to his writing. Even though some might not like some directions One Piece take, but at the very least, Oda knows what he's doing. He's had a lot of time to think on it and plan it out and get what he wants done. And in this case, with the time travel, it's a good step, but at the same time, it's a worrying step. Because time travel could easily ruin a series. There is a lot of series, not just shonen, but a lot of series that when they start dabbling into time travel, it can really ruin the quality of the series and can create plot holes, plot convenience, stuff like that. I mean, for instance, with this whole time travel aspect being introduced into the series now, many might start speculating, wait a minute, what if Roger, somehow could time travel? Or, what if Roger somehow could live? Or, we really don't know. We don't know exactly how the time traveling even happened and how Kinemon and all of them got there in the first place. But the point is, people will start speculating that maybe some characters have time traveled. Maybe Joy Boy was a time traveler. There's many things like that many might start to assume, and so that's what makes time travel, the overall plot point, very, finicky. It could definitely mess with already previously established themes in a story, especially if it has not been there since the very beginning. And it's one of the big reasons why I love Steins Gate so much, is because Steins Gate is a series that, honestly, I've never seen time travel used that well, and that's why I really appreciate Steins Gate's story. And I'm not saying Oda can't do it. By any means am I not saying Oda cannot use time travel. I'm just saying it is definitely a slippery slope, and it could lead to a lot of issues if, it's not handled right. And from everything we've seen from the series so far, Oda really hasn't actually ever introduced time travel, anything really with time. It was actually only till very recently we got stuff affiliating with time. Like, for instance, Katakuri and how he was able to see, multiple seconds into the future to see what Luffy was going to do. We knew about that. It wasn't technically like seeing or being able to change the future. It was just foresight. He was just able to kind of, judge what Luffy's going to do and then try to, do something else to stop him where he doesn't do certain moves or whatever, or counter him. But it wasn't like time travel. It's a completely different ball game, and it's definitely not like Zawarudo, from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because that's literally stopping time. So the point is that right now, with this introduction of time travel, what really is it? Like, what type of time travel are we talking about? Because there's many ways Oda can go about this. Oda, in some shape or form, he is kind of a troll. He loves to troll his fan base in some ways. He doesn't always, but he does. And maybe Kinemon saying they time traveled, it could be the truth, like he is spitting facts, but it could be something that he doesn't truly comprehend or understand, and there might be a more meaning here to where it might not actually be time travel in the first place. So, Kinemon states that him and everybody else that's been journeying with him, and the people he's been hunting down, Momo and all that, they are from 20 years in the past. They are from a time to when Wano was itself, when Wano fell, and, they somehow managed to time travel. Now, from the information we get within the chapter, is that all the samurai were shoved into Odin's castle, the castle was burnt down, and then supposedly everybody died. And then, I'm assuming the graves were eventually made for these individuals. But the point is that everybody assumed the samurai died when, the castle was burned down. Because, obviously they were probably watching it, nobody came out, so they're like, okay, yeah, they all died. Now, somehow, Kinemon and his group, they were able to time travel 20 years into the future. Now, many are saying, okay, Chibi, they time travel, devil fruit, okay, just chop it up to that. Yes, but we also gotta remember there's different forms of time travel. Like, you have cryo sleep. Maybe, they're frozen solid, and then eventually they thawed out, and they were moving once again, which I know many are going to say, but Chibi, if they were frozen solid, or if they were, let's say, turned to stone, we should have seen it, or they should have seen it. When they investigated Odin's castle, they would have felt petrified bodies or something. So, yes, I agree with that. I don't think it's something as simple as maybe freezing them, or maybe even turning to stone. Now, if it is, they were very well hidden, maybe in a casket, a tomb, whatever, but we gotta remember that there is different forms of time traveling, because there's time traveling where someone's just frozen in time, and then many years pass, and then they're woken up again, and there they are, or they're literally sit into time, to where they literally just yesterday was 20 years ago to them, but, to everybody else, 20 years have actually passed. So, that's the point. Now, anyways, I do want to mention that if, let's just say, on the off chance maybe some form of frozen devil fruit, frozen completely, put them asleep for 20 years happened, this would also be very similar to what we saw in, the Reverie. You remember in the Reverie when we saw the Celestial Dragon, D1 walk down and all that, and you saw, this big straw hat? And then many pointed out that that was actually a tomb. That was, a casket. That's what many assumed and started pointing them out to me, and I'm like, that does make sense. And we noticed, if you look at that scene in the past, if you go back multiple chapters, there was a lot of ice. It was a frozen room, preserving things. And it made you wonder, what was the purpose of that? And what if what we saw going on in the Reverie, what was hidden within, Mary Jo's, what if that's very similar to what happened to Kinemon? What happened to his group? Think about it. That's what I'm getting at. So, the point is we don't really know exactly what form of time travel that Oda is using. So, we can't really start speculating yet until the details, the nitty-gritty, is really explained to us. Now, we do know that whoever probably did this, like put Kinemon and his entire group into the future, was probably Oden's wife, because she gave a prophecy to Orochi, like, in 20 years, 9 warriors will come out to stop you, open up the country, and dethrone you. That's what was said by Oden's wife. Now, it's very obvious since she was outside of the burning castle and she was saying that means she had some form of information of what actually happened. For instance, maybe all of them being sent into, the future. And if I had to assume anything, she's definitely the one to do it. Now, the question is, was she, like, someone that had a time devil fruit that could actually send them into the future? Was she, affiliated with someone that could send someone to the future? If she had the devil fruit, that means if she died, if Oden's wife died, that means that the devil fruit would actually technically be out there in the world somewhere. Because we know how devil fruits work now. We know when the individual that has the devil fruit dies, then, like, a fruit around in the world will get that devil fruit. We've seen this firsthand. So there is a possibility if a devil fruit does have time manipulation to send people into the future, that will pop up once again. So honestly, I really hope it's not something like that, because that could lead into a lot of issues. It could lead to issues to where, once again, it could create plot issues, like plot holes, stuff like that. Why hasn't it been used yet? Who has it? Whatever. But that's the point. Okay, dropping that for now, let's talk about other little nitty-gritty details from the chapter, which is the stuff with Zorro. So Zorro, in this chapter, once again, he wants to look at Luffy's sword he's been carrying around. Now, we have already been told that the sword is cursed. We've heard about this when Luffy first grabbed the sword. But once again, Zorro says, hey, Luffy, give me that sword. Seriously, I feel like this is build-up for something. I feel like with Oda constantly doing this with Zorro's character and, having Zorro ask Luffy about the sword, most likely Zorro's going to use that sword. Like, he's going to grab that sword, and, something's going to happen, he's going to want to use that sword, and it's going to be a part of, like, his collection or something. I could definitely see something like that happening, because Zorro already has a cursed blade. So having something like that attached to it, like another cursed blade, I feel like it'd be really well with Zorro's theme for what we have seen thus far in the series from his character. So I feel like there's just a lot of build-up behind the scenes going on with the sword that Luffy is actually carrying. I guess the only thing to really speculate now would be the fact, is Oden alive? Because with Kinemon and his group being sent into, the future, is Oden alive? Now, Momo does say that his dad was dead, but once again, we gotta remember that there's a lot of secrets that they have. Like, we know that they always hide things, and they don't really say a lot, so it's very obvious that Oden may be potentially alive, for all we know. We might not really know the full story, and maybe, he is still around. Who knows? But that's the point I wanted to get at, is we don't really know much, and we can assume that what we thought we knew was probably all a lie to begin with. Now, most likely, many of you are already very aware of this, and many of you probably have more knowledge about the situation than I do, but I really do like how the Wano arc is kind of like a homage to ancient Japan. Everybody kind of knows about that already, but the whole term with the isolated country of Wano that was mentioned in this chapter is very similar to how Japan was like many, many years ago. A long time ago, Japan was a country that was isolated. They didn't really want to ever open up their borders. They wanted to keep everything to themselves. Didn't want to let anyone in to mess with their, their traditions, what they had. And I like how ancient, Japan is very similar to Wano. And I feel like, this is kind of like a story to show how much Japan has changed since the day when it, was an isolated country. That'd be pretty interesting if that's really where Oda's taking it. Because, it seems like this arc is more in line with just Japan's history, and it's for really the Japanese fans, and, the people that are the Japanese fans are going to be able to understand or really connect with, this art more than, let's say, people from other countries, because of just how relatable it is, with an isolated country, which Japan once was, and Wano is, and then, how many were believing that it's best to be isolated instead of having open borders. I think that's just really cool. But I want to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.